Kill Bill is a martial arts film and is directed by Quentin Tarantino and stars Uma Thurman. So for this one, we're going to be doing something completely different. Instead of reviewing Volume 1 and 2 separately, we're going to do this as one whole film as it was originally designed to be. So what we've done is we've watched both films back to back, and we're just going to judge it as one film. So yeah, with Kill Bill, this is definitely one of Tarantino's better films. In fact, it's probably up the top tier of his, best films ever made.
No, I completely agree. I feel like it's, as not a big Tarantino fan myself, I really enjoyed it. Like, out of most of his movies, this is probably the most enjoyable one, I felt, because it just has so much life in it, and I just love the energy of the film and stuff like that, and I just absolutely adored it.
Yeah, I would say it's probably my favourite Tarantino, because I just think that what he did in it, the camera shots, the ideas he had, the martial arts stuff is fantastic. The choice of colours, the animation that he puts in it. He just went all out with this, I felt. And it felt like he really had something to say, and he really had designed particular shots and sequences where his previous films to this, he hadn't done that before. So that was sort of interesting and different for him.
Yeah, this film was quite the technical achievement. Cinematography was great, the editing was great, a lot of the shot choices and locations were very gorgeous to look at. And we were discussing among ourselves while watching the film, but we kind of think that this film is probably technically the better Tarantino film out of all his films, even the later ones. Because this was Tarantino's first film that wasn't a crime film. With Tarantino's first 3 films, Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, and Jackie Brown, those were all kind of the same crime films about, robbing money and heists and all that. Kill Bill is the first different film he made. This one was about a revenge story, based around martial arts and all that. For those who have followed my channel, you will know that generally I'm not big on revenge stories. I find them to be a bit predictable and like, okay, we know what's going to happen here. But with this film, the main character's want of revenge is pretty much earned because, people did her wrong and she wants to, seek justice for that in her own way.
Yeah, I really like the idea that she sets out to do this, this revenge thing, and she does it. She accomplishes it. She kills everyone that she has to get to where she has to be for it. And I thought that was refreshing to me because in so many of those, like you're saying, those revenge pictures, they either don't get to what they're meant to do, or they give up, or they change their mind halfway or whatever, where this was, she had a plan and a set focus, and that's what she stuck to.
Yeah, because I felt like it was probably, for me, the most approachable of his movies, because I feel like, in terms of the way you watch it, it's kind of like being from previous films. I'm not a big fan of him going back and forth, but I felt like in this film, when he did do that, it made sense. I could follow it much more, which is why I enjoyed it a lot more than most of his other films.
Yeah, I think he started to get the right style and the right idea of how to use that element that he does where he, back and forth and breaks it up like chapters in a book. I think he really harnessed it in this. And I love the fact too that it was all shot with a Japanese crew. Like he used them and he shot how they would shoot. I thought that was brilliant.
Despite this film being very heavy on action, it also is very slow paced as well. Because some stuff does kind of take a while to get going, but here's the real charm about this movie. Some people may say this is going to be kind of boring, but this is a film that requires patience, and it is rewarding if you sit through it and just let the film take you on a ride. Especially in the finale where Uma Thurman finds Bill, and instead of a big fight, it's really just one big talking session. I know that this pissed a few people off where the two characters didn't go fight each other, but really, all the action scenes before that were so huge and massive that nothing could really compare to it. So a simple talking between the characters where they interacted and explained themselves, I think that was more rewarding in that way, especially since there was history between the characters that was explored in this entire film. The thing that will definitely bring people into this movie is its action scenes, and yeah, it deserves its R rating because this is gory as shit. If you thought John Wick was violent, yeah, that's child's play compared to what happens in this film.
But that's the kind of thing I got from it. It wasn't the gore that affected me, it was just how good the choreography was. It felt like every punch had an impact. Yeah, everything was really you felt like, even though it is very gory, and I do completely agree with that, but it's just the impact of everything, like the way they fell over, the way they got punched, everything about it was just real. It felt real.
Yeah, and a lot of it was on camera as well. No CGI, which was like a breath of fresh air. Like the fact that, you know, this was done as realistic as possible.
Yeah, it's kind of breathtaking, a lot of the fights, especially the fight with the Crazy 88s, but also the fight with Elle Driver and Beatrice Kiddo as well in the camper trailer. Like, that was brutal, the fight in that in such a small space, but you felt every punch and every kick and you were right there, and it was quite impressive. All the fight sequences so impressive with, like Alex was talking about, like you were talking about, the idea of each punch, each cut, whatever, had an impact and was powerful in its approach, and its sound editing gave another element to it, and a real effectiveness. And yeah, like seeing Crazy 88s where she's just chopping limbs off is just extraordinary to watch.
Yeah. And then the fight between Uma Thurman and Lucy Liu is also a really great scene. And while it's not as, you know, impactful as the fight between the Crazy 88s, it's more of a patient fight, and it feels like a true classic, you know, spaghetti western standoff where the protagonist has fought to get to the antagonist, and the fight itself could end at any time with any, you know, swish of the blade.
I felt that this scene sort of slowed things down, which was good, because we had such a crazy fight previous that they had to slow this down a little bit. And it's so beautiful as well, where it's staged in this sort of area where it's like snowing, and it's a set up room, and just the way that the fight takes place, and it's sort of slow to begin with, and they're sort of standing across from each other talking, and it's a very intimate, sort of powerful moment.
Yeah, it feels like a proper, you know, samurai fight, where first it's a slow build and then it reaches its crescendo.
Yeah, and there's such a respect between them, even though they're against each other, there's respect for each other, and that goes back to the whole samurai thing, and I really like that. I think Tarantino really was able to capture samurai movies and martial arts films in such a great way.
Uma Thurman is great as a protagonist. David Carradine as Bill deserved an Oscar nomination because in Volume 2 at least, he pretty much, you know, like steals the show.
He gives probably one of the best performances of his career, in my opinion. And he has some great speeches that he sort of gives. There's a story he tells of Pai Mei, which is really cool. But there's also the story he tells about Superman, and who Superman truly is, who he is, and that Clark Kent is the disguise, and that sort of relates back to who Uma Thurman's character is and who she pretended to be to get away from the whole life and be someone else.
No, yeah, I definitely agree with that. What I really enjoyed from it was that every single character, even the supporting characters and stuff like that, all felt like they were a big part of the plot, which I felt, because it didn't feel like there was any secondary characters really. Even like the henchmen and stuff like that, they had a bit of characterization, didn't talk too much, but you can still get a presence from them.
Yeah.
And I feel like everybody, like no one was playing a small part, everyone was playing like a part that felt like together it created the whole film. So I was very excited that didn't feel like there was no small parts. Yeah, it was all great.
It's good because they're not faceless, henchmen or ones we don't care about. They all have their moments within it, and especially within the club there, where there's that great shot where it goes through the whole club and then follows her in the bathroom and then comes back out. I agree that all the characters are well written, and it felt like, Tarantino was being really respectful of the characters and bringing them all to life in such an interesting way. I think
And going back to the Uma Thurman character, this is how you do a great leading female character. This is a character that has layers to her, and she's not portrayed as being overpowered. At a lot of points, she's shown to be vulnerable as well.
Yeah, no, I ultimately agree. It goes through a whole range of emotions, from sadness and tragedy to like anger and violence, and she just goes through everything to accomplish her goal, I guess. And that really makes her sort of a more human character rather than being like just a straight character. It's just, I'm on a revenge tale, they killed someone I loved and I'm going to kill them all, with no sort of depth or personality or stuff. Where she has, like you said, a lot of layers. And she's just interesting to watch, and it is such a great, strong female character without being too in your face about it. She's just a very strong and sturdy character that has a mission, and that she works towards it, and she does what she has to do to get through it, I guess.
Yeah, and achieves possibly the best closure to any film possible. Like, it's as happy as you can get.
Yeah, well, I think because of the fact that at least she has her child, you know what I mean? Like you think
Yeah.
the child's dead, but then you find out it's not. And then at least she has that child now, and that's sort of her prize in a way, that at least she didn't lose everything and she has something to hang on to after everything has happened. Because usually with the revenge pictures, it's like they accomplish their goal and then what do they do?
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Because it's like with The Revenant, when Leonardo DiCaprio, you know, he went through his revenge, and then once he like successfully completed it, what else was there for him to do? Because like his whole family was dead. Like his son was killed by Tom Hardy. Like that was an example where, even though it's a great movie, that's an example where, you know, the main character, he pretty much has like no direction after the film is like finished and over and done with. At least with Kill Bill, we've gotten that closure where she's gonna grow old with her child and like watch her grow up and like become an adult herself.
Yeah, has a new lease on life ultimately after all the tragedy she's had to go through, and being shot in the head too, like the recovery from that.
Overall, this is definitely one of the most technically sound movies in Tarantino's filmography. It's very well shot, well edited, you know, the scenery is gorgeous, the acting from everyone is great, the direction from Tarantino himself is fantastic. This is as close as you can get to a perfect movie. And while there are still a few issues I had with the film, I still enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Like, as I'm a big fan of Tarantino, I will admit I did very much enjoy this film, and I felt like it's his most approachable and most coherent film. Not saying his other films not coherent, but just I feel like if you're not a big Tarantino fan, this is probably a great introduction into him, because I feel like it's his most sound and most perfectly shot, and every other aspect of the film is one of its most perfect films he's made. So I loved it. Yeah.
Yep.
You know, I agree. I think it's probably his best film, technically and otherwise, story as well. He evolved so much from the heist pictures into this. And the editing from Sally Mankey was fantastic. She was quite an accomplished editor, and she worked really well and closely with Tarantino. And she knew how to cut it and put it in a way more than he did, I guess, in a way. And it's sort of sad that she's not around anymore to edit his movies, but this is a great example of the skills that she had and the story she told through the editing. I just thought was absolutely fantastic. And it's sort of, with a lot of Tarantino's films, there's particular things you look at. This had style, but also the storytelling element and the editing really stood out, as well as obviously the martial arts. But I just thought it was such a well-rounded film, well put together, and it was the first film he'd done that wasn't a crime picture, but it was also the first genre picture outside of the crime genre that he'd done at all. And using the whole Japanese crew gave it a whole unique element. And having Zoe Bell there do a lot of the stunt work was really fantastic as well. And it had everything that you love about Tarantino movies in it, and I thought it was absolutely fantastic.
I'll give it a 9 out of 10.
I'm going to give it 4.5 out of 5.
And I'm going to give Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2 a 9.5 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you see, be sure to like my Facebook page, follow me on Twitter, and subscribe to my channel below. As always, I'm NETX5, and this has been Film Guru and Alex. Thank you for watching.